But today we're going to do something different. We had a YouTuber actually respond to one of our videos, and we really appreciate him. His name is Philip Arm. He wrote us, asked us. We said, sure, great, go for it. He sent us the link. We watched it, and I wasn't initially, Lacey hasn't seen this yet, just FYI. But I watched it, and initially I was like, oh, we're not going to bother responding. But then it got, within a couple of minutes, it got kind of wild. And so I thought, okay, I'll watch the rest of it. And so I watched the rest of it. And he kind of inadvertently brings up a lot of stuff that Lacey and I have complained about for months. We just never have enough time because we only have enough time for our schedules to do one 90-minute show a week. That's all we got, because they take a lot of prep time too. It's not like, it takes at least 5 to 10 hours of research, depending on the episode, right? So for us, it's kind of like, wow. And so he brought up a lot of stuff that we have all this extra research we never get in because we're trying to keep it tight. But he brought up this stuff, so I thought, well, we'll just go over his video today because he inadvertently steps into a bunch of this stuff. Kind of funny. So I thought, good point. Look, we're looking at what minimum people need to survive, right? Kind of average minimum people need to survive. And I'm making the point that half the people aren't even meeting it or barely meeting it. So that signifies a serious problem, that a lot of people in this country aren't even meeting a living wage. We're talking about 90 to 100 million people can't even meet basic standard of living on the living wage calculator, right? But Phil takes this in a completely different direction, and this is where we totally lose him. And you're going to love this, Lace. So if I just explained that. We'll go back 1 second. Working here is $50,000 a year.
Average income in America.
What, around 52? So half of all Americans are making $52,000 or less.
That is amazing. If you make $50,000 a year, you are in the top 10% of earners in the world. America is a very wealthy and privileged nation. Even the poorest among us live as kings compared to the rest of the world.
That was his takeaway.
I feel like he went somewhere totally different with this.
Well, yeah, but it's also, one, we're not talking about the rest of the world. We're talking about America. Two,
right, we weren't bringing that all into the comparison at all, actually.
Two,
so that goes to a different place for sure.
But two, here's the other thing that really kills me. So he's not wrong. I mean, developed countries, if you live in a developed country like Western Europe, Japan, South Korea, Canada, yeah, you have a higher standard of living, but also you need more money just to survive. If I'm living in Botswana, I probably don't have running water and electricity if I'm living in a village. And our currency is probably worthless anyway, so I'm probably just using a barter system anyway. I probably don't have any wealth because I'm living in a communal sort of system. But he's not wrong. So I looked it up: median versus average income. This is the top 10% worldwide. Globally, if you have 138,000 or more net worth, you're in the top 10% of wealthy people in the world, right? In America, to be in the top 10%, you have to have a net worth of 185,000. But to be in the top 10% of earners in the United States, you need to be making 173,000. So you need to be making more than triple the median just to be in the top 10%.
So essentially, this is interesting and a little ironic, but there are a lot of Americans that, by American standards, aren't making it, but by global standards, they are in the top 10% of earners, because you go and start comparing us to other countries that.
But it's apples and oranges comparison.
Right, sure.
It doesn't mean anything. The other thing about it is it's kind of this, when he does the "we live like kings" thing, it's like, okay, it's kind of like your mom telling you, finish your peas because there's starving kids in Africa, right? Well, shocker too, there's starving kids in the United States. Right now, the estimate is somewhere between 10 to 12 million children in the United States suffer from food insecurity. 10 to 12 million. You know how many people there are under the age of 18 in the United States? 70 million. So that means 1 in 6, roughly. 1 in 6 or 7 children in the United States. And you know what? Their parents are probably in that bottom part of the median, making less than the $25 an hour. But I mean, and I don't think Phil means it this way, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, I got it. Why don't we go to a homeless shelter and we'll talk to those people that are working and living in the shelter and making hardly making it up to survive and have to get on welfare. But Phil's got a message for all you guys.
Earners in the world.
See?
America is a very wealthy and privileged nation. Even the poorest among us live as kings compared to the rest of the world.
See, you live as kings here in this homeless shelter compared to other people. So just shut up. I know that's not what he means, but that's what it sounds like. I mean, you might as well buy a big bag of Carl's Jr.'s burgers and walk into the homeless shelter while you're eating them, not share them, and tell them, well, be grateful. You live like kings compared to other people. I mean, it's once again, he's looking at it from his own perspective, and he's not thinking about the big picture.
Well, and the danger of looking at it from our own perspective, and it's in some respects difficult not to do because we are our own lens.
Right.
But one of the dangers is, okay, even take Phil's extra income off the table to the side and say he's making roughly $20 an hour and he's doing just fine.
Mm-hmm.
So when looking at this median number and you're saying, you know, half of Americans are earning this amount or below, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at that, now I don't know Phil's family situation, but if that's a woman in her 40s with 3 kids who's single and maybe one of the kids is younger and in daycare and whatnot, and she is making that same $20 an hour,
right?
You know, that's a scenario where you cannot possibly tell me she's not struggling there.
Absolutely, but that's my point. Is the joke of the whole original clip was we're talking about average. Ken and George think, oh, well, this is just a simple budget. We'll fix it. What they don't realize is what you're talking about is you're basically saying, oh, if you just like I think their answers are like pay off your car or, and I don't know with what money, get a roommate. It's like, you can't tell that to 90 to 100 million people. Oh, if you just pay off your car and get a roommate, everything will be fine. Especially since a lot of them aren't even making that much. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Some of them will be able to do that. Some of them
very few
won't make sense. Because again, okay, tell that to the woman in her 40s that has the 3 kids, you know, single parent, or could be, you know, man in his 40s with the 3 kids, but a single parent, 3 kids, that's what they're making, and you're like, okay, add a roommate plus your 3 kids,
right,
and just pay this car off. Like,
it doesn't.
I don't know.
It does, but that's my point. Is it's not a universe.
It doesn't track easily.
No, it's not a universal answer. But it's always going to come back to their sort of libertarian, conservative universal answer, which is just take personal responsibility and everything will be fine. It's like, well, a lot of these people are. They're working their asses off and they're not getting paid enough. That's the point.